Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nupehadda. Today I'm doing a video as a response to the dislike and hatred for the ARG list. I notice a lot of people don't particularly like it. They are criticizing it and stuff like that. I'm not no advocate when it comes to trying to make this seem good or anything like that, but at this point, I'm going to give my opinion on it. We'll go down the list here. First of all, the Jin releaser rituals. Even though I don't believe he's supposed to be ban worthy in my view, I can see where they're going with this because it has more than enough commotion. The alternative reason for this is because of Hoban when he did that one thing at the event where he switched out the Jin from his main deck and added one from his side deck back to the main, and that pretty much tarnished his reputation about that. But outside of that, I still believe the Jin is, even though it might have been a bit unfair, I think banning it might have been the better choice in the long run, considering what we're going to be getting pretty soon. Shibis, I believe they're called, is the new ritual guys and everything, and we know Necros will get banned anyway, or at least get hit hard. But going down this list again, Fusion Gate was a good call because Elemental Heroes was pretty much abusing the OTK at this point. Laurel Chain, this is one of the big controversial cards. I believe it deserved the ban. It's degenerated to the point where one turn could eventually kill you. If not kill you, it certainly sets you up for the next turn to be killed, because people could literally get 2 to 3 of these guys out onto the field. Even the OCG, they have a deck called Clown Blade, which is very horrendous and both stalling tactics and control and a bit of stun, from what I've noticed. Probably more on the control and the stall than anything, but they do have some stun elements. If anything, Laurel Chain, I might agree to it being at 1, but for right now, I'm just going to be an advocate when it comes to saying that this card needs banned. So, Necros Trishula. I don't know why this card got banned in the ARG. It could be the simple fact that it did like what the Synchro did, but the Synchro was a bit more busted than the Ritual Guy, because the Ritual Guy requires that the player has to have a card in their field, hand, and graveyard before its effect will activate when it's summoned. I don't remember what its other effect was, but I remember the first effect I just mentioned was its primary effect that people use it for. But we'll roll with it. Royal Magical Library. This card needed to be hit. Ever since Chicken Race came out, I've been doing some research of what all the OTK, FTK cards, or decks I should say, that this can go in, and there's a lot of them. And hitting certain cards in there did not help. And it certainly doesn't help when we get in new cards like Chicken Race comes out, so Royal Magical Library needed to be hit. Vanity's Emptiness. A lot of people argue that it should stay at 1. I think this might be healthy because banning Vanity's Emptiness, because even though we have a lot of special summoning and a lot of everything like that now, it means that we're not being restrictive. Like, Vanity's Emptiness is one of those cards that was not designed properly. Let's be honest with that. Even though at the time when it came out, it wasn't big because there wasn't a lot of synchro summoning doing around, and if I recall, Heavy Storm was still around at that point with 3 MSTs on the field, so it was easy to get rid of. I just believe that, however, it is more problematic because you have cards like Skill Drain, Lose One Turn, and a couple others. I personally believe that continuous trap cards is more of a problem than anything. Counter traps can be a problem, but they're one-time use unless you have multiple copies of the card. But continuous traps are more problematic because they stay on the field. There's no way to get rid of them by normal means except for like Mystical Space Typhoon or whatnot. So I personally believe Vanity's Emptiness is good as banned. Even though I might favor one again at some time, but right now with all the decks that it hits and everything with the new meta and all that, and for casual players as well, it's more hurtful than helpful right now. You can argue that all you want. That's just my view. And if you don't like my view, well, leave a negative comment or anything like that. I'm sure I'll look at it and see what your point of view is, but I stand by it. Um, Now the restricted to one is interesting because Sir Mel Branch of the Burning Abyss, I run a BA deck competitively. Of course, I'm not very competitive. I actually run a 60 card Burning Abyss deck, which I'm pretty sure I mentioned in videos before. But going to one is probably the best thing they did by itself and not have Griff join it. I understand why Sir would be the more evil of the two cards because he is a monster reborn on legs. At this point, a 1600 attack is not something that's very easy to get over, depending on what we're looking at. So I understand that El Shaddai construct and El Shaddai fusion going to one was probably the best choice. It's following the OCG list at that point because they realize how busted that is. I'm sorry, but El Shaddai fusion was the second worst card to deal with when it came to Shaddai's next to super polymerization, and super polymerization is banned, so that became their best card, and the rest is history on that. I don't believe that fusion spell cards like that should be quick plays because they don't really have any negatives. Elemental Hero Bobaman, Elemental Hero Stratos. I'm trying to be as neutral about this as I can. I like the idea of Bobaman going to one because there's been many times where that card has just busted everything. Stratos going to one, however, a lot of people are like, it's not needed. Some people argue it is needed. And I just look at it, it could be the next OTK, FTK moment if people can figure out how to do it. Of course, with instant fusion at one as well, we don't have to worry so much about Nodin being abused, which I think was a good call because, let's face it, Nodin was not really the problem card, it was instant fusion. If instant fusion wasn't in the equation, Nodin would not be looked at as much. Some people would probably use polymerization to try to bring him out, but it would not be worth it at the end. I think Insta Fusion, a good card back in its day, and a good card now. Because back in the day, some people would use Insta Fusion to bring out stuff when Magical Scientist was banned. So, Mistake going to one actually helps because Beast Tamers, Spiritual Beasts, and all of them, they were using it against people. Shadows was using it against people as well, but the Beast Tamers and all that are actually using it a lot more. Necros of Unicorn. Unicorn is a pain. Let's admit this. Anyone who's running a extra deck, which is 95% of the community, had to deal with this card. Lineup Carrier, Zen Mighty. I allowed to go one because it's time for windups to see if they're still busted or if they can actually join a community without causing any mischiefs. Though I don't believe that's going to happen, but who knows. Restricted to 2, Dante, the Traveler to Burning Abyss. This was actually another good call because Dante is pretty much, it grabs what it needs in the graveyard, so there's no reason not to at least hit this a little bit. 2 seems fine. 1 might have been better, and leaving the main deck alone. If I really had to choose the 2 of the lesser evils, I'd rather have Dante go to 1 and Sir going back to 3, because at that point, we can see if the Dante going to 1 would actually help more than anything, but it's whatever. Dragon's Ravine. I guess Draconis? No, it's not Draconis. It's you know what I'm talking about, the one deck that actually ran this, and it was actually for it, so I can't remember their names right now. But, yeah, they can have it back. Dragon Rulers are no longer an issue, and I don't see them as being an issue in the near future, because they're practically going to be staying on that list for a very long time. Inzektor Hornet. Because of way the cards are now, that they float in the graveyard and everything like that, and they have secondary effects and everything, Hornet doesn't seem as a bad card anymore. So going to 2 is actually probably the best bet to see if the Insectors can actually live. I doubt it because the way that the decks are now designed and everything, with 2 separate effects, um, BAs can just float off of it. They even have spells and traps that float somewhat. Well, traps don't, but the spells do. Um, Rescue Rabbit at 2, that could be more problematic. And people are like, why? There's not any more OTKs and everything if you got Larval Chain and all that. It's more towards the anti-meta decks that I've seen that ran this, and having that 2 could be more problematic because they could be just as dangerous as Vanny's Emptiness and stuff. But I believe in giving chances, so we can see what happens with Rabbit going to 2, and we'll see what the articles will cover. Summoner's Arc going to 2, I personally think it should have went to 1 because of Wavering Eyes, or completely gone. Wavering Eyes is probably going to be its replacement, eventually, because eventually ARG or Konami, when they finally give us a list, might actually see Wavering Eyes as an issue. But as of right now, we'll see what happens. Because the only issue with this, the list really at this point, is Quill Forts and Satel Knights are going to be the big things. Torrential Tribute going to 2 might be the counterbalance to this. So I actually welcome Torrential Tribute to 2 now. Wind Up Magician. With Zen Mining going to 1, I think it might actually be good. I wouldn't mind seeing Wind Ups coming back in a sense. Not the overly burning Wind Ups that they used to have, but I wouldn't mind seeing them still. No longer limited. Chaos Sorcerer. There's not much I can say about that. Actually, it should have been unlimited a long time ago. It's no longer an issue. We have enough cards to deal with it. We have breakthrough skills. We got Fake Veiler. We have Phoenix Chain. Sorry, my voice is getting dry here, but there's no real issue with the card. Dark Hole going to 3. My only concern is if Dark Hole is going to go free, Ragaki should have been banned. Not because that seems practical, because it is practical, but it's not that. It's the simple fact you now have a card that hurts both players now, or helps them. Like, you can't really benefit from Dark Hole like you could in the past, because Dark Hole will activate effects. Ragaki just activates stuff on your opponent's side of the field, and hopefully they have enough resources to counterbalance what Ragaki does. But Ragaki in itself, I ain't saying it's too powerful of a card, it's just powerful in this current meta with the way things are. Glow Up Ball going to 3, however, well, I have no issues with it, considering you can only use his effect once per duel, so that's not really an issue. Sacred Swords of the 7 Stars going to 3, that's actually pretty decent, because now with Drangler's being banned and everything like that, it doesn't have any live targets anymore, so overall, I don't mind this list. I just wish there was certain other cards that they added, either as a restriction or ban, like Satel Knights, Quill Forwards, because Scout needs to go to 1. I'm sorry, but it does. There's no reason for it to be like where it's at. It's too powerful of a card. It searches for anything, and it's a Pentium card, which means that when it dies, it just goes to the extra deck. It doesn't go to the graveyard, so... And they don't really have anything that grabs stuff from the graveyard, but the Pentiums of the extra deck and everything, oh, they have cards for that. And from what I've been seeing, the Turbo Tower decks, what I've been recently seeing, and I actually faced it last night. I actually went 2-3 against it, but I lost the third round because of Skybase. I was running BAs, by the way, so it was the only deck I had. I just didn't have a side deck. Still don't have a side deck right now. I'm just trying to figure out what the side deck would be for a 60-card BA deck. But now, if I'm going to run in the ARG list, until Konami decides to get off their butt to actually post a list for the TCG players, that means Sir's got to go to 1. I lose the gens, so that's really 4 cards that I have to take out. And this might convince me to go down the 40 card deck. I don't know yet. I might be able to get a buy of running something else. Someone suggested, a friend suggested to me, Darkness Necrospear. I think it's pronounced correctly. And that could be a decent choice, of course. Sophia might come in this mix if I can figure a way to get all the materials on the field. But until then, I do appreciate y'all for watching this video. If you like it, leave a like button, comment below. If you dislike it, hit the dislike button. Rant all you want. I mean, this is my views on it. Not like it's going to be important, at least I don't think. Unless my opinion is so important that you feel like you need to rant to me about it. I mean, then it's kind of thumbs up for me anyway. So, I appreciate y'all for watching. Have a nice evening.